Hey, what is up, guys? This is Chris, and I'm back with more Everyday RC and part 5 of the TLR 8Ight-T 4.0 Nitro Truggy build series. That's right. For those of you that have been following along with the build series, you'll know that I left off on step F1. I went ahead and installed the side chassis guards just to give you guys a little bit more of a finished looking product here. Although I did not move on to step F2, the servo tray, because I did not have my electrical components just yet. So right here, I acquired the parts necessary to continue forward. I know it's been a little while since the last build series, but here we are on part 5. So let me share with you everything that I acquired to finish up the next step. And as you can see, we're going to be installing the servos, the RX battery, the receiver. We're going to get all our linkages connected, so here we go. So let me share with you everything I have right here. So of course, most of you are wondering what servos I ended up going with, and I went with two monstrous servos right here. You're looking at around $200 just for these two servos. So this kit has been very expensive to build, but I didn't want to cut back on anything. It's a high caliber kit, so I didn't want to cut any corners, and I just wanted to go with all top quality parts here. So I went with two Savox servos. I'll give you the part numbers right here in case you're wondering. This is the Savox 1272 SG. This is what I'm going to be using for my throttle brake servo. And this is a monstrous brushless high-powered servo. It's the Savox 2270 SG. And for those of you that are wondering, I'll give you some specs here just to give you an idea of how beastly these servos are. So under 7.4 volts, this servo, which is my throttle brake servo, is going to get 416.6 ounces of torque, and it's 0.10 in speed, which is pretty quick. And this is going to be my steering servo, so I wanted to go with a little bit more torque. And it has 444.4 ounces of torque, and it's a little bit slower at 0.12 speed under 7.4 volts. So you want a little bit more speed for your throttle and brake, just to give you a quicker throttle and brake response, especially when driving. You know, you want to get a little bit faster action. So I'm going to be utilizing these with a LiPo battery for my RX battery. So I will be acquiring a new RX battery, but for the time being, just to get it set up, and it's always good to have an extra RX battery just in case. I started off with the DYNAMITE RX battery, and this is a 7.4 volt 2000 milliamp 2S 5C LiPo battery, LiPo receiver pack. And yeah, this is what I picked up from DYNAMITE, and this will be running my electronics. And I have an old Spectrum DX3S remote that I have most of my vehicles linked to, so I wanted to be able to utilize that transmitter. So I picked up the Spectrum SR310 3-channel 2.4 gigahertz receiver, so I'll be able to utilize that remote. And I picked up a Tactic. As you can see, I picked it up from my local hobby shop, Track Day Hobbies. This is a Tactic on and off switch harness with the charging cable connected as well, so I'll be able to utilize that. And we're going to move on to bag F. We're going to open it up. We're going to move forward with the build, and I'm super excited about this. So let's get going with the rest of this build, guys, and let's make it happen. Alright, moving on to step F2. We have our servo tray. As you can see, I have all my parts laid out from bags F2, F4, F3. I have them kind of separated, all my screws here on my CowRC pit mats. And it looks like for step F2, the servo brace assembly, we're going to take this aluminum brace right here, very nice quality. And this is basically going to be going right here. And we're going to be using that screw. So let me get that done, and I'll show you the guys' next step. Okay, moving forward to step F3. It's time to get our servos installed. right here. As you can see, I finally have them out of the box and installed into the servo tray. Man, that feels good. Just one thing I wanted to point out here, there's an exclamation point, so they want you to take notice that the furthest one, the front servo, is going to be your throttle, and the one behind it is going to be your steering servo. So I have that set up. My throttle servo is going to be the 1272, and my steering servo is going to be the 2270. Now these wires are going to come through here into the receiver box and then go into my receiver. So I'm going to have to wait till I get it installed on the vehicle to see how I'm going to route these wires, how I'm going to bundle them up, neaten them up so that you don't have a spaghetti mess of wires. So I'm going to move forward now and install the screws, and they want you to use this servo plate, they're calling it the STD servo plate. So as you can see, they supply you with multiple servo plates. These are numbered 1, as you can see, these are numbered 2, and the ones that they're telling me to utilize are these, the STD ones. So yeah, all right, so I'm going to be putting that underneath there because this aluminum brace kind of raises up the servos and you're left with a gap such as that. Alright, so let me get that all installed and then we will move to step F4, the on and off switch harness. Awesome. Alright, completed with step F3. Have my servos installed with the hardware. Something I just wanted to share with you guys. If you look carefully at your instructions, you're utilizing 3 different types of screws here with your washers. So these are pretty straightforward. You're going to use 4 of the LOSA 6206s. And for whatever reason on the steering servo, you're going to use the shorter screws here. You're going to use the LOSA 6245s right here. And this aluminum plate is actually threaded, so I did utilize some thread locker installing the shorter LOSA 6245s. And for the throttle servo, you're going to use a little bit of a longer screw, as you can see right here, and you're going to use the LOSA 6229. So I installed those for the throttle servo. Alright, all completed with that. Now it's time to move over to step F4 and get my switch harness installed. And alright, let's keep moving forward. And just to refresh your memory, I'm going to be using the Tactic Futaba switch with the charge plug right here. And if you want the part number, there it is, TACM 2001. And let's get it installed and let's hope it works. Alright guys, all finished with step F4. Ran into a little bit of an issue. Okay, so it turns out that the Tactic on-off switch harness unfortunately is not long enough to pass through here and go into my receiver box. So I am going to need an extension for this cable right here that's going to go into the receiver box. I didn't have one on hand. The only thing I have is a splitter. So just for the time being, just to get this up and going, I'm going to utilize this right here. I'm going to put this in between and I'm just going to have the splitter wire coming through into my battery box right here, and I'll just have one of these hanging off, not doing anything for the time being. It's not going to hurt anything, and eventually I'll get just a single extension wire. You don't need much to pass through and go into here, so that's the only issue. Not really that big of a deal, but I had this on hand and I'll still be able to make it happen. So that's about it for step F4. Got the switch installed and the post right here. You want to put that into the servo tray. You want to install your bottom screw here with, like it says, a little bit of thread locker here on the bottom. And that's about it. Now I'm going to move forward to step F5, the receiver installation, which is pretty cool. It's showing to put the cover onto the receiver box, which I'm not going to do yet, just until I get everything wired up and installed and ready to go. But you can see that you're going to install the sticker, which your TLR logo right here will go on your receiver box cover. Pretty cool. I'm going to get my foam pads installed. And yeah, we're gonna move on to step F5. Alright guys, all finished with step F5. And I just wanted to give you a quick update. Originally I said I was going to use this splitter connector for the time being, but we'll get rid of that because that's not going to work. And I did run out to my local hobby shop real quick and picked up the Tactic 6-inch extension wire. So I just wanted to throw that out there for you guys that are going to pick up the Tactic TACM 2001 switch harness. You are going to have to use it in conjunction with the Tactic TACM 2090 6-inch extension wire. And this is just a general servo extension wire, but this is for the on and off switch harness. So it's going to go to here and it's going to pass through this channel, come through here and into my receiver box. Now I did install my receiver and I used the foam pad supplied, but as you can see I only cut off half the material because my receiver is only taking up half the room inside the receiver box, and you can't really see, but the receiver box is actually angled down, so it wouldn't even make contact with half of that pad. So I just cut half of that strip off and it's very secured. So disregard what I said originally about using the splitter wire. I wasn't even able to use it anyway because I couldn't fit both of these wires in the channel, so disregard that garbage. And if you are going to utilize the Tactic switch harness, pick yourself up one of these 6-inch extensions. I picked up two just because my local hobby shop had it and it was only $3.99. And I did install the TLR logo on my receiver box cover. So we are all wired up. I installed my receiver wire here and I cut it to length. As you can see, the kit supplies you with a long piece of tubing for your receiver wire, and I cut it to length. I like mine to be as short as possible, but as long enough that it's going to receive good enough range. So that's about it for step F5, right? And now we are going to move over to step F6, the installation of the RX battery, which I am super pumped about. And as you can see right here, you're going to install that insert into the bottom of the RX battery tray, and then I will install my foam pad that will lay in there, stick to the bottom, and cushion my charged up RX battery. Alright, let's get it all installed and I'll show you when I'm done with F6. Alright guys, I'm about halfway through with step F6 and there's a few things that I just need to explain to you guys. Alright, here. So, I have my DX3S and I have it all bound up, and as you can see, I created the model. As you can see, let me go here. Here we go. My main screen TLR 8Ight-T 4.0. Alright, and as you can see, I have my RX battery connected to the receiver. I have the servos. So we got my steering, and we have the throttle brake, so everything's good to go. I just have to route these wires, make them look a little bit more pretty. And as you can see, I have my on and off switch. Now the on and off switch is labeled O for off, I for ignition, so right now it's in the I position for ignition. And as you can see, my receiver light is on. If I go to off, it turns the receiver off. Okay, so we're going I for ignition. Now this Tactic switch harness has supposedly a charging cable. Now you can hook it up, and I just want to show you how I routed my wires. I haven't really completed it 100%. And you also have this insert that goes into the bottom of the receiver box here, because there's going to be a screw that's going to go in there. And I decided to route my wires in these channels here underneath, and then I'm going to put my foam pad on top and then rest my battery on top of that. Now you can connect your power wire into the receiver through this wire or through your black wire. If you connect it to this wire, it's going to put your switch in the opposite position. So if I were to connect the receiver wire to this black wire, it's going to make your switch opposite. So to leave it in the current setting For O for off and I for ignition, I went into the red. And just to create a little bit more room inside the RX battery box, I'm going to leave this connector outside. So I'm actually going to put some heat shrink tubing over this to protect this, and just to make sure that it never pulls apart, because you definitely don't ever want this connector to pull apart while driving, otherwise you will lose all control. So I'm going to neaten up my wires. I'm going to route this wire to the right, and I'm going to route these two wires to the left. I'm going to put my pad over the top, and then I'm going to install my RX battery over that. And since this is a 2000 milliamp battery, they give you a selection of RX battery covers. The flat is going to be a little bit too small for that, so I'm going to use the hump pack, and you'll see that after I'm all done. So let me neaten up these wires. I'm going to run my servo wires through the hole right here. I'm going to tidy them up inside the receiver box, and we'll get it all completed, and then I'll show you what it looks like when it's all finished. Alright, and as far as charging the RX battery, what you're going to have to do, or what I'm going to do every time when I need to charge it or after I'm done running, is you're going to have to remove the two screws and pull out the RX battery and charge it. Honestly, on your Nitro vehicles, you should never leave your RX battery connected all the time. As soon as you're done using it, you should disconnect this battery. I've always done that, even on my Traxxas e-Revo. When I was done using it, I always disconnect my RX battery. It saves the life of the battery, and not only that, it's a LiPo battery, so when you're done using it, you want to store this battery. You never want to leave this battery fully charged. You always want to store your battery at your LiPo battery at about 30 or 40%. So my charger has a store mode for a LiPo battery, so just as religious as you are with your Nitro engines, you should be just as religious with these LiPo batteries, okay? So that's something you're going to want to take in mind, that you're going to want to access this. And the unfortunate thing about this battery cover is that you're going to have to remove the screws, but it's really not the end of the world. It's just two screws. You pop that off, and then you will remove your RX battery wire and put this in a store mode. Okay, I would never store this LiPo battery in the vehicle for long periods of time. You want to treat this like any other LiPo battery that you have in your collection. Alright, so let me tidy up all these wires, get everything neatened up, and then we're gonna move on from step F6 to step F7 and get this bad boy installed into the truck. Oh yeah. Alright guys, all done with step F6. Check it out. I have all my wires nice and neat. As you can see here, got my RX battery all installed. Let's turn it on. Alright, so we got our steering. Our 2270 is moving here. And we got our throttle brake servo going here. Pretty fast action. As you can see, I have my wires neatened up nicely. I have a piece of shrink tubing here. I don't think that's going to be disconnecting anytime soon. And as you can see, it's a little bit of a tight fit here. You're going to want to slip that over, and there you go. There, receiver box is tightened up, and you want to definitely double check, make sure nothing's binding. And then I'll show you what the servo tray is gonna look like. Alright, check it out. Neat and tidy is what I like. Yeah, so everything came out looking really good. Just want to make sure that, you know, with that insert, you don't have any of your wires running underneath that insert, because there will be a screw running through there eventually. But check it out, everything is looking nice. Got our servos working nicely. Throttle brake. Sweet. Alright, so let's move past F6 here and let's get this bad boy mounted into the truck. I can't wait. So let's move on to F7 and then I'll show you what it looks like. All right, check it out. Servo tray installed into the truck. Sweet. We got all the screws in here in the bottom. Let me turn everything on. Always turn your transmitter on first. I for ignition. There we go. Steering. Throttle. All right, next step is F8, the throttle horn installation. So we're going to install the 2 bearings on top and on bottom, which is pretty straightforward. And then F9, we're going to fully install the horn with the brace, which I have over here in this tray. So let me get step F8 and step F9 completed, and then we'll be on to step F10. All right, moving on. Finish step F8. We got the throttle horn installed with the 2 bearings, as you can see. Moved on to step F9. Got the throttle horn installed with the brace. Installed the pivot balls and the 2 screws. You want to take notice that this will go into the throttle horn with a little bit of thread locker, and the other screw will go into your center differential housing, or your center differential bracket, as you can see. And everything is super smooth, and as you can see, that's how the brakes operate. Squeezes that brake pad onto the brake disc there. Pretty cool. All right, let's move on to step F10. We're going to install our throttle link here, which we have over here in the parts tray. Throttle link and the 2 throttle link ends right there, and they're giving you the dimensions. We're going to go 73.7 millimeters from end to end right here, or all the way from the far end is going to be 106.5 millimeters. So let's get that all ready to go, and then we will move on to step F11. Oh yeah, and one other thing I just wanted to point out, we're also going to be installing the cap for our servos, and they tell you they come with a bunch of these caps, and on the inside are the teeth that will go over your servos like so. And they give you specs for Air, JR, SPM, High-Tech, and Futaba. They're not showing one for Savox, but what I did find was the 25 tooth. As you can see, the 25 tooth there and 25 tooth there. That's what you are going to want to use if you're utilizing these Savox servos. So I found that the 25 tooth fits on there. So just in case you guys are using Savoxes, you're going to want to use the 25 tooth. All right, let's get our throttle link installed, and we'll move on to step F11. Almost there, guys. All right, guys, all finished. Up to step F12, and we are now completed with the radio tray installation. Really happy with how it came out. Everything is all neat and tidy. Had to take a little time to get everything set up. So here, let me turn on my transmitter here and turn on the receiver box, and there we go. You hear a little bit of that buzzing. That's quintessential of Savox servos, but here we go. There we go, there's our steering. Pretty fast action, and there we go, throttle brake. Now I am gonna have to set my endpoints once I do get the engine installed, because as you can see, we're getting a little bit too much throw. Well, it might be all right, but once you get the motor installed, you're definitely gonna wanna set your endpoints so that you don't overextend, and you want your carburetor to open just the perfect amount, and you want there to be just the perfect amount on your brake. So now you guys get to see exactly how this works and how the brakes, see, right about there. I gotta set a little bit of the endpoints, but they want you to have this line directly in line with this line. So I actually had to extend this a little bit more. They did say like I had stated before, that they want this to be 106.5 millimeters, but when I had it at 106.5 millimeters, this servo was over here. So I did open it up just a few threads on either side so I can get it balanced out over there and to have my servo zeroed out. And then you want to install your servo horns. Now I'm probably going to be going with aluminum servo horns in the future. I just installed these plastic ones for the time being. And one other thing, which, here we go again with this kit, they don't specify what screws to use for your servo horns, and they do not supply them with the kit. So I looked in all the other bags that I have left. I have bag H, bag I, and bag G left, and I looked in all those bags, could not find any servo horn screws. So luckily I had these in a kit that I already had before. It's just a regular screw kit that I had laying around for a Traxxas Slash. Wow, look at that. Well, these are the length of the screws. As you can see, they're pretty shallow screws, and I had these stainless steel screws on hand, and I put a little bit of thread locker just for the time being, although I'm probably gonna, like I said, be removing these servo horns, putting in aluminum ones. But I'm pretty happy with how everything's performing right now. Got some pretty fast action, and yeah, so I'm happy how everything turned out, guys. As you can see, I got all my wires neat and tidy, and it's starting to look more and more like a Truggy with every step that we take. So yeah, I'm super happy about that. And one added thing I forgot to mention before, I don't want to go on too much longer, but with this wire extension for the receiver, you are going to have to just trim that tab off real nice and easy with a X-Acto knife. So basically, you're just going to want to come in here with an X-Acto knife and very carefully trim that tab off of there so that this wire will fit into your receiver box. But I'm sure there are other on and off switch harnesses that you can utilize out there. That's just the one that I had used because it was available at my local hobby shop. Alright guys, so I'm super pumped about this kit. Everything is coming together very nice. And we're done with step F12. And oh yeah, can you see what's next, guys? The installation of the engine. So, spoiler alert, if you stay tuned for this much longer, these are the rest of the parts that are going to be going into the kit. And oh yeah, this is what's going to be going in there. So if you stay tuned for this much of the video, you're going to wait and see for the part 6 for the TLR 8Ight-T 4.0 Nitro Truggy build series. Oh, here we go. Spoiler alert. Oh my gosh, I can't believe it, guys. So that'll give you a taste of what it's gonna look like. Alright guys, I hope you're all making it happen in your RC worlds out there. And for now, this is Chris the Everyday RC Guy in TLR land saying thanks for watching. Keep wrenching, guys. Make it happen.